on a Zoom call.
Indeed, a Zoom call that is streaming through YouTube.
Which is crazy.
YouTuber! That's what I played in marching band.
Hey, no you didn't. We would have talked about it by then. I played a sousaphone.
A John Phillips sousaphone?
That is correct. A white one. I guess it was made out of fiberglass. I don't know. Right into the podcast if you know what white sousaphones are made out of. It's Ben's email at yahoo.com at gmail.com.
Boy, we've not divulged that in a while, have we?
Yeah, that's right. It's a email that we purposefully made difficult to figure out because at the time we thought it was funny, but we think it has contributed to the fact that we don't have many listeners or viewers, which longtime listener, longtime viewer Stephen McCandless has said proves that we're adversarial against our audience.
Yes, very,
and
very
we have
hostile.
Leaned into it at this point.
We're not actively hostile. We don't insult our audience. We just don't make it easy for them to find the show.
That's right. And when we do talk to them, we like them, and when we talk about them, even when they aren't here, we still like that. For example, Drunk, someone from St. Louis, Missouri, who allegedly who writes into the show every once in a while through the chat on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Who is, as far as I know, the one person who found the podcast who doesn't know us, who regularly talks to us, and is not, at least at this point, threatening us, which is nice.
Yes, I will not disagree with that. It is nice when people engage with the show and they are not mean to us.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that, you know, I don't know if you've run into this as a problem. I know I ran into this problem as a kid. There's this thing where someone figures out that if they can be mean to you, there's a turn, and they're like, well, now I can show my true colors and be a jerk, which is too bad.
No jerks.
No jerks here, pal.
At the
GudeLaurance
podcast.
Hey, speaking about no jerks, I have welcome to November, everyone.
What?
I am no, come on. I just noticed that it was October.
October,
and I got
also
the month wrong.
In the mid-70s here in Seattle, it might actually hit 80 degrees on Sunday.
Yeah, it's been cold in the mornings and warm in the afternoons here. No, but what I was going to say is, speaking of no jerks, I have recently been working with, as you know, the AI art generation tool called Midjourney.
So I've heard.
And there's a channel there called Philosophy. And I, unfortunately, my goals for quitting social media was so that I didn't care what strangers had to say about things.
And yet,
right now, you cannot use Midjourney without using it through Discord.
Right.
And so that channel is right there. And it's full of, if I may say so. Now, this isn't everyone. And of course, if you're listening to this, I almost said dear leader. I was so close.
Dear listener.
Is Kim Jong-un listening to the
One podcast? Never knows.
No, could you imagine for some reason, like if you and I were invited to go to North Korea, I would probably have to opt out, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I would go.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be one of those things of like, now, here's the thing. If James Woods invited me to hang out with him, I would totally go.
Really?
James Woods gets, a lot of flack for his conservative views and things like that. But for me, they say don't meet your heroes because you'll be disappointed. I'm already disappointed in him. which
Was he
means that he and I probably could have an okay time.
was he a hero of yours?
I liked Videodrome. I liked him in Contact. I like James Woods as an actor. Jennifer, is James Woods a good actor?
He was.
Yeah, it's funny how, and I hate to say this, and we're gonna get some letters from no one, but often when one turns conservative, one loses their comedic edge, their artistic sensibilities, and I don't know why that is. The suggestion that has been posed to me or offered to me is that it's because you stop caring about other people, and that caring about other people is what makes you um, charismatic in
I
that
think
way that people want to be
a
supporting you.
lot I think a lot of the humor issues that the right has found themselves with is also just the basic tendency to punch up versus punch down. The right
Yeah.
is the right is very much about fear and hatred, and so those are they're punching down to marginalized communities.
Yes. Here's something that's kind of interesting. So one of the things, of course, about this group, when I was more involved, I still like lurk there and things like that. But when I was more involved in the indie TTR, I had to stop the indie TTRPG community stuff that I was doing, because when I learned that I didn't like playing role playing games online, it was a big blow to my involvement with those groups, because I liked all the people in them and they were really great and all that, but I didn't want to do the thing that we were all there to talk about and do anymore.
Yeah.
But everyone there was really nice and supportive and things like that. Whereas in the philosophy channel of the Midjourney thing, you've got
People are
a bunch
generally
of people
jerks.
from all stripes. Well, I wouldn't say that. I'd say that there are some jerks on display though. But here's the thing. One of the things that they talk about in the philosophy of is, for instance, if I type in a man, if I just type in a man, you know how Midjourney works, or the concept. It takes your sentence and it makes a picture based on it.
Yeah.
And somebody said, whenever I type in a man, I normally get white men. And is that the way that this technology should work?
Yeah.
And somebody said that, they know at least some places put in phantom words so that if you just type in a man, it randomly chooses an ethnicity to assign to them, that sort of thing. And the reason that it does that is because it sample sets the photos, that were being used were often of white people, so they're going to be the default because of the selection of the pictures themselves. And somebody said, "Oh, I don't like this. Um, I think that things will go a lot better if people forget about what was it? If people forget about um, placating current year, current with a capital C, year with a capital Y, and just work with people." And I was like, what is current year? So I looked it up. Are you familiar with this term? I think it's more of a right-wing term
Is that
than
how everybody's woke now and it was a whole lot better in the past when people
sort of.
didn't care about one another?
Sort of what they're talking about. And it's apparently a playoff of John Oliver. Many times they use him as an example, where he says it's 2022. Like when they say we're still down on unions, it's
Yeah.
2022.
Paul F. Tompkins did that too. He's like,
Yeah,
churches, still a thing. This year begins with
yeah,
a 2.
yeah, exactly, that sort of thing. And so their concept is that having it be saying it's and then the year, they're introducing it as a fallacy of logic that just because it's a certain year doesn't mean that just because you say that your agenda is more progressive and tied to this year doesn't mean that it should exist. Basically, that's sort of the thing. Is
Sound
that
like great people.
now the thing that well, this is the other thing is that I wanted to and I was tempted to saying you're right because things have shown us that even in the 1800s, there were people who believed in equality for women and things like that. So it shouldn't matter what the year is, just do the right thing. But that is not how it's being presented, and I knew
No.
that those would be fighting words.
Yeah.
And I'm not fighting with people, although I am kind of I'm not happy with my with my inability to stop talking about one thing. And that's that there are people who this is what they present. They say, aha, traditional artists, and they put it in quotes, are scared because of AI art. They're banning us from their art channels, and they're afraid that we're going to take their art jobs and things like that.
Right.
And the thing that I argue with the people about, which was called copium, which is cope and then opium. It's the thing that you tell yourself to feel better about the fact that you're going to lose your art job or whatever, which I don't
Okay.
have, which I stopped working in the art field prior to AI art, and I don't think I'm going to start working in it with AI art. Even though it does make certain things easier, it you can't. This is what I've been telling people. This is what I have been telling people. This what I've been telling people is I think what I said earlier. Anyway, point is, um, you can create very cool pictures with AI art already, and it's only going to get better, and it's going to be very cool and neat. I like using it. It's fun. All that. All that being said, there is a separate thing about being an artist. When we use the term artist to mean someone who gets paid to do art. And that separate thing is the ability to take notes from your editor or agent or whoever and change your artwork based on those notes. Hey, can this ball be blue? Hey, can this be a rhinoceros instead of an elephant? Hey, can you move that person 3 feet to the left because he's blocking the boombox? Whatever. Edward, no, it's not going to help. And what I try to explain is with what you can do right now with Midjourney. For instance, if I type a cab driver sitting behind the wheel of a taxi, the cab driver might be sitting behind the wheel of the taxi on the sidewalk. The cab driver might be, I have to run through a lot of iterations.
Right.
Eventually, I might get something close to what I want, but it's not the same as me penciling it out and then inking it. And then,
Right.
I would get exactly what I wanted. So it takes a long time. Now, if I just say, for instance, a man sitting on a horse, and I don't care what I get, I just say, a man sitting on a horse, and then it gives me things back. Like it could be a man sitting on a horse that's made out of metal and in the sky as a golf ball or whatever. And that's great. And I love that picture and that's fun. And that's great for me when I'm sitting at home going, oh, I'm making fun pictures. But if it's, Walt Disney's editor writing to me saying, hey, you've got to put in something that we think is good or else you're not getting paid from us, it becomes a different game.
Do you think though that eventually will happen where you can play creative director very specifically to AI art?
I think so.
Maybe it's just
Yeah,
not there yet.
I think it will, but the thing is, and you have a very good point there, Ben, right? And one of the things that somebody said was, well, why would they hire a quote unquote real artist to do this when they could just get a whole bunch of high school interns to sit in the basement and churn out images until they get something that they want. It would be a
100
lot
monkeys
cheaper.
on 100 typewriters.
And what I said, and what it was hard for me to impress on people because they didn't either they didn't believe me or they didn't get it or whatever. What I said was, you don't understand how, at least when it comes to illustrations for books, how the publishing industry works. If they did what you're saying, they would have to have a space for them. They would have to, maybe feed them, at least have electricity for the computers that they're using, all that sort of stuff. What they do instead is they just say, hey, if you got books, let me see them and I'll tell you if I like them or not. That's it. They're not paying me anything. I'm submitting to all these different publishers. They decide which one they want. And then I make the book and then they pay me. And that is cheaper for them than hiring 40 people to run prompts. They don't have to pay anything anyway. So, that's the thing is that, and that's the thing that I wrote, is that you just have a fundamental misunderstanding about how this stuff works. And they said, sounds like you're, old and can't keep up with new technology. I'm like, I'm making the same things you're making. We're doing the same. This is the thing I think about. Rick Miller, right? Rick Miller is annoying in the fact that he's good at everything.
Yeah.
Rick is a really good artist.
Yeah.
He can also work on a computer. He's not afraid of computers. If you hand him Midjourney and say, hey, you type prompts in here and you make stuff, he'll make something very cool, and probably after a couple of weeks make something cooler. And I'm like, I don't know how he did this. That's just a talent that he has. And so, people sitting at their computers going, haha, regular artists are afraid of us because we're going to take their jobs. The job of the artist is not to make a cool picture. If it was, there's so many people would be working. The job is to get along with an editor, and it's just like with acting.
It's a collaborative process. Yeah, but are you telling me
Yeah.
that AI art is not going to be the great disruptor in the publishing industry that everybody says it is?
My answer to that is, will it be okay? So this is a good example. Will AI art take over the jobs of the editors, or will it take over the jobs of the people that are submitting books? This is the thing that I think, like I said, this is the confusion I think people have right now, is that whoever's saying that, oh, well, it can make better art faster, and so therefore these writers and illustrators are going to be out of jobs. If you think that the writers and illustrators are the slow part to the creating of books, you're sorely mistaken. Yeah, go ahead.
There's a big misconception in the manufacturing industry that automation is taking jobs. Now, to an extent, that's true. Automation is getting rid of like very dangerous and repetitive jobs, but you still need people programming the robots. You still need people there to be the human counterpart to this automation. It sounds like what Midjourney is doing is it's automating creativity, where you will still need trained artistic professionals, creatives, to guide it.
Well, here's the thing, right? And you have a really good, I mean, it's almost as though you're sitting and reading what these people are writing, because it's the exact same thing, right? When you use Midjourney, your job is not that of the artist. Your job is that of the editor who is asking the artist for pictures. Right. Midjourney is the artist. Midjourney is the one who's turning things in. And so you can get really good at curating, right? But and here's the funny thing. I said Midjourney's the artist without even thinking, right? Because this is the question is who's the artist? And when I was talking on the boards, I'm like, I could see it two different ways. An artist can use this as a tool. So that's interesting that in my non-thinking, if you put in my passion and take out cognitive thought, I guess I view the AI as the person doing most of the artistic work there. The interesting thing, of course, is that in manufacturing jobs, um, you know, those machines have to be manufactured, right? The idea that people are building their own replacements almost. Like you're making the machine that
Well,
is going to,
they're building somebody else's replacement.
right, exactly. Oh, but the thing is
Who
that
makes the
with
makers?
Midjourney, and I don't Midjourney is the one that I use because I believe there's the guy David who runs Midjourney has a vision for what it's going to look like, and he thinks about this stuff, and he actually cares about art and beauty and things like that, which is good, which is why I support them. Um, but the thing that happens with all AI is that there's a training set that it uses. There's a bunch of art that it uses to learn how to make art. And the big question right now is, were any of the artists whose art was used when training these machines consulted? Were they asked, hey, will you help this? Or was there just a big bunch of art? And did they pay for that big bunch of art? Or did they, just go out and crawl, Google or whatever? I don't know.
I mean, that
But
gets into
whenever
an interesting discussion of intellectual property because, art is there to be observed. But if you're observing it with a machine's eyes, does that count as not just observing, but like consuming?
Well, the one thing that's really interesting, and this was great because it was a question that I had that I now have the answer to. Um, People say, is it just collage? Is it picking up images, picking out, you know, does it have a bank of pictures that it's taking elements from and putting it out? And the answer is no, it's not. Uh, it it has a cloud, a bunch of pixels, right? And then it refines them and it refines them and refines them until it makes and goes, this is a picture. This is what a picture is. Now, the interesting thing is, I think I talked about this before. There's a guy whose face keeps on showing up in these AI art images that people have nicknamed Mitch.
Okay.
And there's a woman as well who they've nicknamed Midge. And when you get used to seeing this, when you recognize this face, you'll see it everywhere. And so the question is, I have basically, and I just wrote a thing about this in that channel. I see two major things that'll happen, two major events that will change the way that AI works. Because you were saying, uh, is it going to disrupt the publishing industry? One thing that's going to have to happen is there's going to have to be some sort of copyright lawsuit tied to it. I can see a couple of different ones that might happen. One is, again, the original artist whose work was used to train an AI have a class action lawsuit against one of the AI creators and say, anything that your thing makes is taking our work, we need to be paid or whatever. So that's one thing that could happen.
Right.
The other thing could happen is that, like with this image that keeps on showing up, this Mitch face, eventually the AI, because it's going to have so many users, so many more people making art than normal. You remember this back on Twitter, whenever it would say 3 words you can say in bed and at church, you know, or whatever, uh, like bless me, Father, or something gross, right?
Thank you, God.
Two, there you go. Two two people come up with the same joke using that format,
Yeah.
and one accuses the person of stealing it from them because they thought of it first, and then I go through and I find the person who said it before either of them, and say, okay, so did both of you guys steal from this guy? And it's because you have this limited set of input and a limited format. And so the idea that you'll come up with the same 3 words as someone else is not that crazy. It seems crazy. You're like, because I was the one that thought of this. But we are animals, we are deterministic, all that kind of thing, whatever. So the question then becomes, at some point in time, will an artist who has a piece of art that they created that has a copyright eventually find someone who made an AI image that is close enough to their image that they can say, this is my image, and sue them for it? And if so, will the person say, oh yeah, I made this, this is mine? Or will they say, well, this is actually made by an AI, so it's not really mine?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's how do you? Again, I know nothing about how AI, whatever the noun is, computers, whatever. How they do? So you feed a piece of art into Midjourney as an influence. How can you prove that was an influence into this AI?
Right. So the idea, the idea is that it's trained on an image set, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just one piece of art; it's tons of it, and this is why I think probably someone somewhere is coming up with a class action lawsuit, because they could theoretically have every single person whose piece of art was fed into it say, I made part of this and you didn't ask me. Now, who knows if the image set was bought by a company who the artist, said you can use, because some people do that, right? They Getty Images or whatever, they give them their art and say you can use this. Like, I'm sure I said Betty. I'm sure Getty may have, an image of you or an image of me, any of the commercial products that we did, depending on the paperwork that we signed. Maybe Microsoft took a still from one of our commercials and sold it,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So we might be in there. So it's a legal thing, right? I don't know. But the idea is that if those things are close enough, there might be a lawsuit, and depending on the results of that lawsuit, if the lawsuit says, yes, Midjourney is actually the person who violated this copyright, versus the individual using it, however that shakes out will determine one way about how this stuff will go.
I think there's a weird precedent for this, because I think, if I'm probably remembering incorrectly, but sites like Tumblr or other like social media sites where people can share stuff. Like, if illegal activity was happening on those sites, the owner of the site was liable for damages. It's not the people who were uploading. Yeah, sure, they could get, if it's like child pornography or something, they can find who did it. But Tumblr and who else is also culpable. Now, Drunk has joined us and actually has has a question. If you are the maker of the AI, you said there's one dude who runs Midjourney.
Well, there's a bunch of people who run it. There's a main, like, sort of brain trust spokesperson person.
Right. So could you, they probably don't, but could you claim ownership of anything the AI makes? And likewise, could you be held responsible for any damages that AI caused?
So they do have some. This guy is really interesting, by the way. I wonder if Steven already knows about him, because he does a whole bunch of different things. The fact that he's running this the way he's running it is really interesting. It's a community-based thing. The copyright is really weird. Like, anything I create with it, according to Midjourney, I can use it commercially. But in the same way, because Midjourney is a community, right? They can take my images that I make, and when I say they, I don't just mean the company. I mean the people on the site.
Yeah.
The users can take mine and do whatever they want to on it. Now, They asked the user community. They said, and you remember now, they trained these models on this art that they got from somewhere, and people are like, it doesn't matter, art is free, anyone can look at it. Uh, are you gonna get an art? Tell somebody who drew a picture of an elephant while looking at another picture of elephant that they stole that elephant, that kind of thing. Midjourney asked, do you want to have the capability of being able to go to the original drawing that somebody made and make whatever you want to off of it? That's number one. And then number two was, would you consent to allowing people to go directly to your image and make whatever they wanted to off of it? Everyone thought that the idea of being able to make something off of someone's images was good. Being able to make something off of their images, they didn't want to have happen because that was their image.
Right.
Even though it
can't have it both ways, my friends.
It's crazy.
It's sort of like the Creative Commons like share alike clause.
Yeah, in fact, that's very similar to how these things are set up. And this actually goes. Remember, I said that there are two sort of sea change moments. We're still in number one. There will be some sort of lawsuit. I don't know what the lawsuit looks like, but this is the one that I think is going to happen. It's the most fun. Two users of a specific AI instance will sue each other because their AI images are too similar to one another. And they're going to say, you stole that from me, even though they both were using it from an AI. That's
one of them is going to be Carlos Mendoza.
Do you mean Carl Mencia, or
is it Mencia?
Mencia? Who's Carl?
Carlos Mendoza? Isn't he a stand-up comedian that was accused?
No,
of
you're thinking of Mencia. I don't even know if Carlos is his first name. I'm happy to say I do know that he had a show called Mind of Mencia, but I don't know his first name anymore.
It's Carlos.
So here's the basic thing. That's number one. Some sort of lawsuit will happen. In that lawsuit, they're going to have to determine who owns AI art, who is responsible for it. All that stuff will be worked out there. And then people will either be gun shy because they don't want to get sued like the last guy if that person has to pay out, or there will be an explosion because the law says that nobody owns anything and things don't matter or whatever.
It'll become heavily regulated and take all the fun and joy and life out of it.
Either it'll be heavily regulated, or it'll be turned out that it can't be regulated and things will be like crazy. Right now, as we speak, Midjourney is doing its darndest to make sure that you can't make pornographic images with it or gore. And one of the things that there was a conversation where a woman came on and said, you're talking about banning breasts and all that sort of stuff. I just want to say breasts are natural and they're good and there should be no, they're not dirty. They shouldn't be banned. To which the person had David had a very diplomatic answer, which is that, yes, that's true, but also people can't be trusted to make those images. They can't be trusted to, if they can make bare breasts, making images that are good and wholesome and pure and things like it's the internet.
Yes. Even if you say, the Venus de Milo is good and pure and wholesome, somebody's going to want to put a t-shirt over it because it's filthy.
Well, or if you say the Venus de Milo is good, that's great. Someone sticks, Ruth Bader Ginsburg's head on the Venus de Milo or whatever. It's never Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I said Vader.
Fair.
But so here's the whole thing. That's number one. The lawsuit and all that's number one. The number two is the Bob Dylan goes electric at Newport moment. You remember that? Newport?
Yeah, people booed him.
They booed him and they didn't like it. Some artists whose name we recognize, Banksy or whoever is going to do AI art themselves. They're gonna do a whole bunch of AI art and say, "This is my AI art," and people are going to be people in the art world are going to go, "Well, this is just a stunt, or this is a thing, or whatever." They're going to hate it, but it will mainstream it.
Well,
And
isn't all AI art just a stunt anyway?
well, I don't. Yeah, I I
Like
feel as
what
though.
are you proving? But when you just type something into Discord and it pops out an original piece of art.
Well, I saw this guy
What does this say
who
about the human condition, Paul Goody?
I saw this guy who did it, and I wish I had his name. I feel bad that I don't. But he's a musician, does music, and he made a whole bunch of images in Midjourney, clipped them, and put them in Blender, turned them into 3D backgrounds, and then did an animation of him flying through these 3D backgrounds in like a little car and stuff, and made a music video out of it.
Cool.
And I thought when I saw this, okay, that is art. That right there is a piece of art. Yes, he used Midjourney to make the backgrounds, which is just typing something in, and and we can get into the idea. And if somebody's listening here who is an AI artist, I guess that would be drunk. Uh, if somebody's listening here who says, "Well, it takes me a really long time to craft prompts, and it takes skill and all that," agreed. I've tried, like I said, I've tried to make a very simple picture of what I wanted. It's very difficult. It's easy to type in, just like you said, Ben. You type in a sentence. The Emperor of the Sky and his friend Dave, right? You just type that in. It will come up with something. And if you type it enough times and refresh it enough times, it becomes pretty cool.
Yeah.
Something I've been doing, I think I might have mentioned this to you before. I don't know. I take scenes from movies that I like,
Right.
and I combine the two scenes together, and then I come up with, okay, if there was, and it gives four different versions, right? And I say, okay, so we've got the beginning of the movie, the middle of the movie, the climax of the movie, and then the end of the movie, right? And that's fun for me, right? I can write all that stuff. It's great. But again, if you told me I want a clown riding a unicycle with a bazooka, I can type that in and it will give me something. But it's not going to necessarily match what you're thinking of, and it's not going to match what I'm thinking of. And if you and I are trying to get a picture that we both agree on, it might take a while.
Yeah. Drunk confirms he is not an AI artist. Also, let us know that Carlos Mendoza is plays.
You did it again.
No. Carlos Mendoza is with the Yankees organization. That's why I said his name,
Okay.
because he's in baseball.
Sorry, Ben. Sorry, Ben. Sorry, Ben. Sorry, Ben.
Let me
Ben,
finish.
I apologize. It's like all of a sudden I brought Jamie Tart back onto the team or something, Ben. How bad I feel. Okay, I've only seen that episode up to the point of Jamie Tart walking onto the field.
Yes.
So I don't
yes.
know anything else about it. But I do like that they're humanizing him a little bit. I thought
Well,
that
they
it
did
was,
that. Like, are you in season 2, or is this still?
Yeah,
is this,
season 2.
Okay, they did that a little bit at the end of season 1 when we see him getting berated by his dad.
Yeah. Well, and then the thing about season 2 where he finds out that he gets fired, right?
Yeah.
And he still spends time with his fans out in front of the TV studio as he's leaving. I thought that was good. I really like the fact that you let me know that Roy Kent is writing part of it, because that guy is so fun. I like him a lot.
Brett Goldstein. He's got a podcast called Films to be Buried With, where he interviews people and they've died, and it's a horrible tragedy. But what films would they want to be buried with?
Oh wow! He is British, yeah?
Oh yes, very much so.
I thought so.
He doesn't speak with that Batman-esque gruff
Yeah,
vocal
it's
tenor.
it's great though. It really is. It really is nice. I'm switching. I'm switching my. What's up?
Drunk said, "Let me finish. 3 words I can say in church and bed."
Drunk. Drunk with the best line in the podcast today. I don't know. That's very nice. But what I was going to say is that I am moving into my deeper register again, Ben. You know
Oh
how
goodness.
the problem that I had whenever we're doing music. I'm like, should I sing it up here or should I sing it down here? I don't
Yeah.
know which it is. As I get older, the answer is I sing it down here.
I
Can't hit those high notes anymore.
I mean, you're a better singer than I am. I mean, but that's also not saying much because I'm a terrible singer. But also, I tried to, if I like sing along in the car or along to anything, I have to go down to a lower
Yeah.
register if I want to stay on pitch.
That's exactly it. There are some songs where I can start like the high road. I just break at a different point. Like I only go high on because and so do I. That part I can go high on, but it goes high earlier, and I can't do that part.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, that's AI art. So when I
45
wrote,
minutes talking about that.
so I wrote the basic thing was I wrote this thing that said, here's the thing. If we're arguing about, because people are like, well, everything I do is art. When I wake up in the morning, that's art. When I do this, and I'm like, okay. So if everything we do is art, then it's fine. Then who cares if somebody says you're an artist or not? Because that's the thing, is that the big thing is that there's a huge movement in the AI art community that they are doing art, that this should be considered art, that saying that it isn't art is wrong because they're the ones that come up with the image, and just because they now have a new tool that makes it easier doesn't mean that they're any less of an artist.
And
so
people
on
who
and so
go to
forth.
art school and graduate with art degrees and have put in the work are getting upset because now people can, your average Joe who never studied
Yeah.
can produce
And
just, as spectacular work.
and this is the thing, is they say as spectacular, faster, they're afraid of us, all that kind of stuff. And the basic thing is that
They hate us.
I feel as though most of the people saying this have not, in general, tried to make a living at art yet. Because what they would find out if they did is that the idea that there's always someone better than you who can do stuff faster than you is already there. That fear is already there. That concern is already there. The thing, and this is what I was talking about before, when I was doing Giraffe and Elephant, when Elephant Met Giraffe, and A Surprise for Giraffe and Elephant, both those things, the problem wasn't, they weren't like, Paul, hurry up on that art. It was me saying, hey, do you have my revisions yet? Do you know what you want me to do? Have we, what's new about this? And I could not do anything else until I found out from them what changes they wanted me to make.
That's an
If I, sorry,
that's an interesting question. That maybe you do or don't want to say, but how much did your editors influence the art? Were they like, oh no, elephant needs to be on the left-hand side?
Yeah. Elephant needs to be on the left-hand side of giraffe. Make elephant face the other way.
Really?
Can the monkey be a little bit higher with the balloons? Yeah, all that stuff. And the thing is, you don't know. You can't guess. You have to wait for them to tell you, and then you have to do it. This concept of well, I can just brute force this stuff. I can give I can give them 100 different pictures to choose from. Getting them to choose from 2 pictures takes forever. So that's the thing. Unless you're going to change that structure, which maybe this will happen. Maybe they're just going to hire artist editors, or call it something else, whatever, people who come in. But already, right, you have the artist illustrator, who is a contractor who comes in. They do have in-house artists who take that person's work and clip it and move it into the books and stuff like that. Those folks probably aren't going to go anywhere. But in general, and
Not
this is
yet.
what I'm saying about that lawsuit thing, once that's settled, right, they're not going to care where you get your images from. Because even right now, right, I could paint them, I could draw them, I could do it purely digital. It doesn't matter. They just want me to put in artwork and hand it to them so that they can use it. If Midjourney is clean, right? If there's no problem, because okay, think about how people say Paul's Boutique by Beastie Boys couldn't be made today because of how expensive all the samples would be, right? That's the exact same thing. If all of a sudden you have to pay for every single artist who influences the picture that you get out when you type those words in, it's going to be prohibitively expensive to use AI.
I would be interested to see if that's even possible. Like if an AI has been, if you feed images into an AI for, a year or so, millions and millions of images, is it going to know what is actually influencing a specific piece of output?
I've already thought about this, Ben. People, someone, somewhere. I don't know who, I don't know how, probably Getty Images. If I were Getty Images, I would absolutely 100% do this, are going to build an AI that can look at a piece of art and figure out where its influences came from. And somebody said,
Oh man.
if they do that, what's going to stop them from going to a regular fine artist who draws and say
Yeah.
that image was stolen from their stuff? And I said to
That's-
them, nothing. That's what's going to suck. That's how this stuff is going to be horrible. Because all of a sudden, you're going to get takedown notices for something that you drew yourself in your room when you were 8. And you're going to have to fight the AI lawyer who sent you the AI cease and desist.
This crap is
tell
already
them-
happening. YouTube's content ID system just is a brute force content ID
Yep.
system. There's no finesse to it at all.
Same
And it's
thing with
onus,
TikTok.
Yeah, the onus is on you to prove the content is yours.
And so what you're going to eventually do is you're going to have your advocate AI that somebody else is going to make, and the two AIs are going to battle it out. They're going to say, look, this is why my client should be able to still use this. There's going to be an agreement, and then maybe your stuff gets posted, maybe it doesn't. This is the exact reason why I stopped doing stuff on TikTok, because I kept on posting music stuff and it kept on getting taken down for being, violation of copyright.
I've been doing a video series about a specific artist and used a song from this specific artist in the video with permission, and YouTube is still like, no, can't do it.
Yep. It's the same thing with well, I mean, we go back to, what is it, John Fogerty. What band was he in?
Creedence
Clearwater Revival. Yeah, John Fogerty got sued for one of his songs sounding too much like a Creedence Clearwater Revival song. I think it was the Old Man Down the Road and something else. But yeah, it's one of those one of those situations where somebody's publishing company tells them that they can't use their own music on their own channel because it's a violation of copyright, when they're advertising the music that person puts out. That sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like, I don't. Maybe this will happen with the AI art world in the future. It's happening now with music, where people buy, or images or video. People buy libraries specifically for the purpose of enforcing takedown notices on YouTube, monetizing somebody else's channel, getting the money from that. It's a scam, yet we put up with it.
So one of the things that Midjourney is doing, I know, you know how I said they were trying to make it so that no nudity could be made. They're they're changing up their library that the AI is trained on
No more
to
Playboys.
take out. Well, that was the thing, is that there was porn in some of the images that was trained on.
Okay.
So they're taking all that out. So what that means is that it may be a situation where Getty Images makes their AI service that is trained on Getty Images, and you pay to use the service to get your image, and you get 8 pictures a month, right? That's kind of how they're. Somebody else suggested something that I thought was great, which is that if Google does this, right, that eventually your results from Google image search may not be from any pictures people uploaded, but Google may include AI images that Google creates in your image search results. And you will have the option to use that. I think that's quite possible.
I think that's a fantastic idea. I don't know how many times I've been Google searching for a specific type of image. I don't really care what it is. I just need I need a picture of a car, you know? And
Yep.
so I don't want to buy a picture of a car from Shutterstock. I just want a picture of a car. So if I can have Google create one or whatever, and say no, I want it. Maybe from the front. Kind of to the side on the driver's side, yellow.
Yeah. And that might be a service. That might be something that costs you like $5 a month or whatever. Which is
Everything's
still
a
cheap.
freaking subscription.
Yep. I'm telling you, Ben, eventually no more cash. Everything's a subscription. If you can't subscribe to it, you can't have it.
Yep.
That's how
There was-
my D&D campaign works.
I was
Which is hard. I still fall back to money. I still forget about that when I'm using it.
So in my apartment, from my window, I can actually see the Space Needle, right? I live in downtown Seattle. I live in Baytown. Space Needle is a Seattle Center. I can see it from my window. It's actually rather pretty. But
Okay, Frasier.
A couple months ago, they
Sorry.
put a construction crane. They're building a new building, which is probably going to block my view of the Space Needle, which sucks.
Yeah.
And somebody mentioned that there's only pretty soon there's only going to be like a dozen buildings that have unobstructed views of the Space Needle. And I came up with this idea of outside as a service, where if you have to pay to see the Space Needle out your windows. If you don't subscribe to that, the window gets frosted over.
Wow, that sucks so bad. You could patent it now, make $1 million.
That is
maybe.
That is the dystopian urban reality we are headed towards, if there's not a nuclear war first.
There was someone who lived kind of near your neck of the woods who had a condo, and I remember they got solicited. I've mentioned this on the podcast before, probably. Hey, donate to our sculpture park. You know, the sculpture park. That's in downtown, or
the Olympic
near the
Sculpture
waterfront.
Park?
Is it? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, the Olympic Sculpture Park.
One of the ways that they got money is they said to people who had condos, "Hey, how would you like to see a sculpture park instead of another condo? Donate to our sculpture park."
And
Great.
Yes, that worked. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. We've got about 5 minutes left, I think.
Still haven't been there. You wanna see what the next GudeLaurance piece is?
I thought we should, since it's ostensibly how we do this podcast.
Yeah. Let's see, Paul. What's the answer to the question I always ask you?
Geez. The answer is the same as always. I have no idea which performance we talked about.
So
last
time we talked about this, we talked about a star-rated toilet, which was the name.
Oh,
of
that was
the Chinese trip. So when I went to China, and so the next thing, which was on October 7th, 2005, which is just 17 and a couple days ago, 17 years and a couple days ago from today.
Yeah.
Paul, what happened? What major life event of yours happened in October of 2005?
Oh, well, that would be my wife and I got married. Oh my gosh. Is this the bachelor party?
5 minute bachelor party.
5 minute bachelor party, which I still like. I still enjoy that. Very, very very wonderful. A big shout out to your friend and mine, Zach Lewis, for his heroic effort of dressing up as a gorilla stripper. Um, to this day, Ben, never been to a strip club. Me, Paul Goody.
Oh, my friends took me to one the day I turned 18.
Oh, well.
And I think when I was in my early 20s, a buddy of mine and I went. It wasn't my idea. He is like, it's something that he did, like on the
Yeah.
regular. And I was visiting home because I think I was in college at the time. He's like, hey, you want to go? And I'm like, all right. There's actually
Yeah.
video of the 5 minute bachelor party.
Oh, that's kind of amazing. We could, yeah. Is it
Well,
is
we're
it
not-
on
we're-
YouTube?
It's on YouTube. If you do a search, you're the one who uploaded it, actually.
Really?
It's from your YouTube account.
I didn't know that I had a YouTube account with stuff on it that it was publicly facing. Well, excitement plus. Are you listening to the music of the
Yeah,
video clip, or were you just?
No, I played it just to see if it would actually play.
Yeah.
And not do that thing where it's like, you can't play this, you have to watch it on YouTube. And
Yeah.
it's apparently when I edited this video together, I used the opening riff of Jumpstart the Funk.
Oh, okay, yeah. Hey, there's something. The opening riff of Jumpstart the Funk. I didn't play that. You didn't play that. That is a music clip,
A loop?
and it all comes full circle. Apple Loops. What's the difference between that and Midjourney, I ask you? If I make
Well-
Apple Loops into a song, is it still a song, Ben?
And with that ponderous question, we'll leave you and hope that you and
Ben,
your-
you think that that's going to happen, but
enjoy
we still
your
have
mid-journey.
2 minutes left, Ben.
No, I'm at just under an hour. Of course, I did start recording before you did. It is also
You started recording before I
1
did.
minute after 5, which probably means that you were late again, although not as much as you normally are.
I was late, not as much. I actually,
I didn't actually have to
I did
text you
a,
today.
I did a sneaky thing. Well, first, number one, Jennifer, my wonderful wife Jennifer, said, "Hey, don't you have your podcast today?" And I said, "Well, yes, I do." And
Because she
just
remembers
walked
that it's
over.
Thursday at 6.
Sure, yeah, exactly. Oh, speaking about which, we usually have to be reminded by my parents about our anniversary. We both forget. Although this time, I guess we can end with this. We went to the Foundry again in St. Louis. It was very nice. And
Oh.
the 17th wedding anniversary is chairs, or it's furniture. And so we got 2 chairs for our kitchen.
Well,
And then we're going to a Renaissance festival.
Nice.
Yeah.
I will
Not
not
this
be doing anything that fun or exciting. Oh, we're actually doing some streams here at Annex Theater. that I'll
Oh,
be
what
preparing
streams?
for.
Oh, wait a second. Is it the Boggle thing?
That is in like 2 weeks.
I gotta say, Ben, bless CBS. The Boggle thing is a wonderful idea. I think people will love it.
We're doing a tech run of the next Annex Games show on Saturday, and on Sunday, Cole Hornaday and Rob McGregor and I will be back in this theater to do another edition of I Love This Movie, where they will be talking about Edgar Wright's seminal zombie movie Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead. What a great film. And with that, Ben,
And with that, Paul,
I have to let you know that it's still a couple of minutes.
oh come on!
Until we're done.
It was a couple of minutes a couple minutes ago.
I know, right? It's crazy, but what can you do? Actually, it's not a
couple of
couple of
minutes
minutes.
ago.
It's a couple of seconds. Yeah.
Have you-
Oh, I figured out. Tiny Cities Made of Ashes by Modest Mouse. You familiar with it?
If I heard it, I'd probably recommend it.
So we talk about does anybody know whether a body could get away? Does anybody know a way? Is part of it. And we talked about how when we sing, we have to sing low.
Yeah.
It's harder to sing fast and low, I've noticed. So eventually, what I ended up doing was singing it like Cookie Monster. Does anybody know whether a body could get away? Does anybody know a way? And then I
don't
realized,
think Edward likes that very much.
yeah, it sounds a little bit like Tom Waits if you draw it out a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to do it now because Edward is already mad at me. Oh, look at Oh, Edward has a loose tooth in the front. It's so sad.
Oh no.
Tiny dogs lose their teeth sometimes. It's just a thing. Don't at me.
All right.
We have a dentist appointment for him, but it's in January, so I don't know what's gonna happen. He might lose it before then.
He's just gonna be in excruciating pain until then.
Oh, and with that,
I bid you a very fond, keep it wrong.
Excruciating pain until the next episode of the GudeLaurance podcast.